how does it feel being in a country that recognizes daylight saving time?
Well, I had a few 4 a.m. wake-ups because Hannes was already waking up at 5 o'clock, and then he was waking up at 4 o'clock
yeah.
after that, so that was a newish experience. So you get more sunlight in the morning and less at night when you move into wintertime. Is that how it works?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess it's easier to put the kids to bed then, because it gets darker earlier.
And easier to take them to school. Like, for the last week, I've been driving my daughter to school in the dark, and this morning it was bright. So that's nice.
Yeah, that's all right. But I don't have any other feelings about it besides how it affects dealing with the life of my children.
Right. When I was a kid, this was my favorite time of the year because it's always right after my brother's birthday, and usually he would get some fun toys or something for his birthday, and then him and I would wake up an hour early and get to play with his toys for an hour before having to get ready for school like normal. I remember things like the new Pokemon games would come out, so we would play Pokemon together on our Game Boys before school. So you've got probably, 3 days of that before you adjust and then start sleeping in again.
Oh, good memories, good times.
Uh-huh.
One of my brothers has a birthday next week as well. He's turning 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a milestone. Is that a milestone for you guys as well, or is 21 the bigger one?
I mean, 18 is legally an adult, so that would be a pretty big milestone.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, I guess you can't drink or smoke until you're 21 here in the States. So if
that hurts.
if that's what you're waiting for. Yeah, drinking has been that way for 20, 30 years now, but smoking they just raised from 18 to 21 like 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But so there was a whole group of people who turned 18, started smoking, developed some form of addiction, and then one day they weren't able to buy cigarettes anymore because they weren't 21 yet.
That sounds really familiar. I think you might have told me about it before.
Maybe we talked about it when it happened.
Yeah. No, it's 18 drinking, and I don't even know about smoking in Australia, but I see plenty of kids smoking, so it's probably 18, but maybe 16.
Well, with the vapes and the e-cigarettes and stuff, it seems like everyone's got something. Even kids have something in their pocket.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, like the 5th grade or 6th grade, I had become aware that other countries had a lower drinking age. Specifically, like Canada was 18. And I remember in the 5th grade making a decision that the summer after my 18th birthday, I was going to go to Canada so that I could drink. And coincidentally, not for this reason, I actually ended up doing exactly that.
Oh, cool.
I was in a singing competition and had to go up to Toronto to compete that summer after my 18th birthday, which, funnily enough, of all the provinces in Canada, and I don't know what province Toronto's in, but the one I went to was the only one that the drinking age is 19 and not 18.
Oh, no, you're kidding. What a disappointment.
It did not end up being a disappointment because no one checks IDs in Canada, apparently, so I drank freely. But, yeah, good times.
This is really odd, but that's the second time just this weekend that I've heard that between the Canadian states there are some weird differences. Like the states are a little bit more autonomous than you would expect a state to be. And I don't know if this is true because, it's just told to me by someone that if you get a driver's license in one Canadian state and then move to another, you have to resit the tests and get a new driver's license.
Oh, really?
Have you heard of that?
I mean, like, if you moved states in the U.S., you'd have to get a new driver's license, but I don't think you'd have to take the whole test again to get it. I've never heard of that.
Okay.
So, I mean, every time you move, you get a new driver's license because it has your address on it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, every time you move, but... Yeah. I guess I didn't really think it through, because in Australia, if you move, you have to get a new driver's license as well, of course. But I guess the person telling me was German, so maybe it's a German thing that you don't have to get a new driver's license in Germany when you move state. That was probably it.
So they're the weird
maybe
ones.
I just conflated the whole... Yeah, they're the weirdos. Or maybe you do have to reset the test. I should fact check things before spreading any more vicious rumours about Canada.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, you're able to drive at least, like, even across borders. Like, I can drive in Canada with a U.S. driver's license.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why you'd have to reset a test for that, but who knows?
Well, I, as a tourist, can drive, basically anywhere in the world, but once you move somewhere, you can't, you kind of lose the tourist license.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems more dangerous, like in situations like yours, where you could be potentially swapping sides of the road you're driving on. That would be a lot harder to get the hang of as a tourist.
Yeah, there are some really niche rules around here that I'm quite happy to have Yasmin in the car for. Although I drove from Germany to Holland the other month or week, as you know, and I'm sure I missed a lot of niche rules there because there was no one in the car with me who was used to driving in Holland. But the whole, in Australia, we don't have, I think it's called an unmanaged intersection, where there is no stop signs in any direction, and everyone has to come to a halt and then give way to the right. Like, that doesn't exist in Australia. But
it sounds like just an intersection with stop signs. Like, what's the difference?
Are you thinking, every direction coming to the intersection has a stop sign?
Right.
That doesn't exist in Australia.
Oh, okay.
One direction is always free to go, and one direction always has a stop sign.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's yeah. It's a novel concept, and in Germany they don't even bother with the stop signs. It's like, if there's no sign, then give way to your right. So that's new to me. But also having to calculate, which way do I give way to, because it's not the natural way I'd give way to.
Oh, right, because you're used to going the other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely lean more towards more signs than less. Because if there's no stop signs, everyone would just drive right through the intersections.
I mean, yeah, as long as one direction stops, I think you're fine. That's how we deal with it.
Right.
The other good one here is you have speed restriction cancel signs. You have driving on the Autobahn, there'll be an 80 sign, so you do 80, and then it'll just be an 80 with a cross through it. And that just means do whatever you want from here on out. So you could do 80, or you could do 280, and just everyone's got to figure that out.
I've always liked the idea of an Autobahn. Is it particularly unsafe, though? It seems like it hasn't caught on for a reason.
It's very fun. Yes, it's as good as it sounds. Yeah, you can. I don't know. It doesn't feel unsafe. I think people are on a higher level of alertness, because if you're in the fast lane, then you expect that you could come up to you could approach someone at a massive speed differential, so you're hyper aware of that. But you're also hyper aware that someone behind you could be doing the same to you, and so that if possible, you should be getting out of the fast lane. So it's like a constant game of keeping as right as possible while also going as fast as you need to. Whereas it's different to Australia in that, like, people don't stay out of the fast lane in Australia, even if they're going quite slow. There's no
that happens here.
Motivation to not just sit in the fast lane doing the speed limit. Whereas in Germany, it's like you may die if you do that, because someone could be doing like literally 100 k's an hour different from what you're doing, which is ridiculous.
That's an example of a state-by-state rule here in the U.S. Like where I'm at in my state, you can sit in the far left lane in the fast lane, and it's really annoying, but no one can do anything about it. But like if you go a state over, it's actually illegal to sit in the fast lane if you're not passing.
Oh, okay. So you've got to be familiar with where you are state by state.
Yeah. If you're a good driver, it doesn't make a difference because really no one should be sitting in the fast lane. But yeah, some people might be. I just did a quick look up here, and the Autobahn is safer than the U.S. highway system. It says fewer deaths experienced per billion miles traveled. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
The other thing that Autobahn has got going for it is the infrastructure is like perfect. Like there are no autobahns where you could possibly have a head-on collision because there are always concrete barricades. Whereas like a highway in Australia, it's just like 2 lanes side by side and you're divided by paint on the ground.
Right.
An Autobahn is just not like that. And then I think there are a minimum of 2 lanes as well, and quite often 3.
I see. No like cross traffic or anything like that.
There's 0 cross traffic. There are no traffic lights. Every like crossing Autobahn is like the big, spaghetti spiral structure thing that you get. Very well signed. So I think a lot of that goes towards allowing high speeds and the tolerance of big differentials in speed.
It's too bad. Out of all the places that could have got a system like that, Germany is small enough. They could have gotten away with it. But like countries like yours or mine, where you can have to travel long distances and days of travel potentially, that's where we really need an Autobahn system.
It would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, just flying across the country at a few 100 k's an hour. It gets expensive though. Like the car I was driving in, was doing like 6 litres per 100 k's at 130, I think, but then it was doing like almost 10 litres per 100 k's at 180. So yeah, it gets expensive to go fast.
Wow. So you have to buy a car built for it.
Yeah, I think so. They must gear them differently too here, surely.
Right, yeah. It's not the environment for electric cars, unfortunately. They really like the stop and start more than anything.
Oh, really? Do they? They don't like to cruise? I guess there's a lot of wind resistance at those higher speeds to counteract.
Yeah. Wind resistance, and they do a lot of regeneration when they're starting and stopping.
Yep.
So your battery life is the worst when you're just cruising.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Speaking of electric cars, though, in Germany, I saw something pretty cool just 2 days ago. I was doing a little bit of a countryside walk, and this place is just full of wind turbines, like what are they, probably 20, 30 metre high propellers. And then someone had their SUV parked at the bottom and just like plugged in to the wind turbine.
Really? You can just pull up to them, huh?
Well, I'm guessing that this guy owned the wind turbine in question that he was plugged into. And it wasn't just some passerby. But yeah, it was a funny sight just to see the car there and a little cable running straight from the turbine into the little plug.
You would think they wouldn't generate consistent enough power to do that. But I'm not sure.
As in, like, instantaneous consistency, or like from one day to the next? Because, they speed.
Yeah, just in a given moment.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they, though?
I guess I was thinking, like, if the wind starts and stops, you're not going to... There's no guarantee you plug your car in and 3 hours later it's going to be charged if like, the wind dies down for some reason.
Ah, okay. These things that seem to just run all the time, unless it's dead still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these blades are 15 meters long at a rough guess. You don't really see them, like, spin up and then slow down. They just seem to always be going.
Okay. They're just high enough up. They're always catching the wind.
Seem to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they produce crazy amounts of power as well.
There was one... like, I've obviously seen wind farms, or kind of out in the middle of nowhere, lots of turbines. But I had one house I saw in my town that's like they built, I'd say it's probably like a half-size turbine, like in their backyard.
How tall is it, though?
I mean, it was a good deal taller than the house.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be a bit of an eyesore.
I imagine it was, because it didn't last long. It's gone now. It seems like for an individual house basis, something like solar panels would be a better bet than building a miniature wind turbine.
They can also be dangerous. They all have signs for falling ice around here. I'm not sure if that's when they spin up or just maybe after a cold night, but yeah, you're not supposed to stand underneath them, so one in the backyard could be a bad idea. You may get speared through the chest.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I wonder if it was potentially just not high enough to be an issue.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But, I mean, even your house, well, maybe you aren't as familiar with this, but it's like even your house, develops icicles on it in the winter, so...
I am completely unfamiliar with that as a concept.
Yeah. Just as snow thaws and refreezes, and you get little spears basically dangling from the edge of your roof.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Big enough to kill people?
I think there probably have been instances of people dying, but they're usually not that big. As a kid, I'd like snap them off and lick them like a popsicle, which is probably really gross. Think about all the dirt it picks up from the roof. It said 15 Americans die every year from icicle-related accidents.
Oh no! Well, that's quite a low number as a percentage of the population, but still.
Right. Yeah, it looks like the number is 100 annually in Russia.
Right. Well, I picture Russia's icicles year-round.
Right.
I can't remember how we got there, but I solved a iPad photo import from SD card bug.
Okay.
Do you remember me talking about this many, many years ago, where I had an iPad with tons of space, and actually this was the case on the iPhone too, the exact same bug. Always had like 100 plus gigabytes of space, and then I'd go to import like 2 or 3 gigs worth of photos, and it would say that the device was full. And then,
right, yeah, I do remember this.
You might try the next day and it would work. Or you might like restart the iPad and then it would work. It would import it. And I've had many theories over the years, and I thought I'd solved it a few times. One of the solutions I thought I had was, or one of the explanations I thought I had was, the Google photo backup thing was like downloading originals from iCloud, but the Photos app didn't know about it, and this was all this like used up space on the devices that the OS didn't know about, and all sorts of crazy theories. But I think I've got actually to the bottom of it this time. And what happened was I was importing. I just clicked import on some photos, and it popped up with the warning and said, like, you don't have enough space to import a few gig of photos, even though I've got hundreds of gigs free, or 100 plus. And then I noticed, like, underneath that warning, one of the thumbnails of, like, all the photos that you preview before importing, one of the thumbnails kind of re-rendered slightly in some way. And this might not have anything to do with it, but I thought, that's weird. Maybe it was still calculating something and I hit import too quickly, even though the import button was available to press. Like, there's nothing telling me don't press the import button.
Mm-hmm.
But I clicked OK on the warning and then clicked import again, and it imported perfectly. And I've been able to reproduce that like dozens of times more. Even I had the problem after I shot the wedding a few weeks ago, I think, and that was like 40 or 50 gigs worth of photos. And it said like, oh, and there's not enough space. You need, because it always has like a crazy small number, like, oh, you're short 115 megabytes to import 40 gigabytes worth of photos. Made no sense at all. So I think what's happening is, this might be crazy, might not make any sense, but I think the iPad is like making some sort of like virtual disk or something to take the photos off the SD card and then put them onto this like space or disk or sandbox or something. And if you don't wait long enough, it hasn't like requisitioned enough space for this area to be able to put the photos in. So what it's actually saying is, this temporary bit of space where I'm going to import the photos is not big enough yet. And that's why it was always a weirdly small number, because it was probably, it's probably like a 10-second operation to create this space to import the photos into. But because it only takes like 5 seconds to show the thumbnails and then for me to press import, it just wasn't finishing that process. So now all I need to do is like wait for the thumbnails to appear and then give it like 5 or 10 seconds and hit import, and the device out of space error has never come up since then. So I'm pretty happy with that, as you can tell.
So the problem all along was just that you weren't patient enough.
Well, I don't know if I would say that, but sure, we'll go with that. I wasn't patient enough. The iPad's error message was completely sending me in the wrong direction. That's how I'll put it. I mean, just put a spinner there or something if you're doing this little background operation that takes 10 seconds. Come on.
Oh,
don't tell me my iPad's out of space, because I bet there are like tens of thousands of people worldwide who have this problem every week. And I did tons and tons of research to try and find a fix and never came across this as a solution. So I got to get the word out there now.
That is for sure one of iOS's biggest shortcomings, is just it will not tell you or indicate in any way if it's in the middle of processing something. It'll freeze the screen up for 3 minutes before it'll put a spinner up.
Yeah, and the Files app's especially bad for the stuff like that.
Oh yeah, file transfers are the worst.
Yeah, file transfer is so frustrating. But yeah, I'm with you. It can be very frustrating.
I can't imagine why they would need to do a system where they like requisition a small virtual disk first. But it does kind of sound like that's at least something along those lines is what's happening. Or at the very least hasn't finished calculating the size of all the photos that you want to import. And so it just assumes it's too many.
Yeah, could be something like that too.
But, all right. Well, yeah, now you've definitely got to get that word out. You got to go to all those forums that you've been browsing for the last 5 years and let them know you've got the solution.
No, this solution is not coming free. I've got to make a YouTube video and monetize it and get those cents rolling in.
You haven't posted on a YouTube channel in a while.
No, inspiration for doing that comes in fits and starts, and yeah.
I thought you had just had some kind of seems like your most recent spurt of videos, you had made some kind of comment about wanting to do it weekly or even more frequently, it seems like.
No.
What,
to you or in one of the videos?
I don't think you said it in a video, but I think you'd said something to me about like as an exercise you wanted to try to create something once a week or something.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Yeah, I would never put it in a video, because that's one thing that always annoys me when someone makes like a random video and they're like, I haven't posted in 17 months, but I'm definitely going to make a video every week now. And then you look at their channel and it's like, that was 3 years ago and they haven't posted since. That's a pet peeve.
Right.
But yeah, I was inspired at one point to, I think I said I was going to make like a troubleshooting video every single day for a year or something.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did the actual maths on that, it was going to take like 7 years before it generated any serious income, just based on what my income already was. If I'd done that calculation at like peak COVID, where I was making quite a considerable amount more out of YouTube ad money, it would have been more sensible, but yeah, not now.
I think you would hopefully expect to gain subscribers and viewers as you continue to post more, and you wouldn't have to calculate at that flat rate of your current viewership. But
yeah, I suppose so. It's also hard to work out what that would be as well.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, I've got a new idea for my YouTube channel.
Okay.
ASMR.
All right.
No, actually, I'm not even joking, but I don't think we've ever talked about Go 4x4 before. Have you heard of that YouTube channel?
Go 4x4. No,
it's an Australian, and it's not like in the ASMR genre, although I think this person does put ASMR in their video titles. But essentially it's someone who does a lot of outdoorsy stuff and just takes beautiful videos of themselves doing it. No talking at all, and of course the ambient volume is turned up a little bit. And
oh yeah, they got lots of like camping in the rain videos. I see
camping in the rain and the crackle of the fire and the rain on the tent, and
yeah,
they're just so nice to watch that I feel inspired to do something similar. But of course, as an interest in photography, I thought I'd do something, like with an old camera or some old film or something like along those lines.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a easy way to do ASMR and not have to whisper, narrate the whole thing or something.
Gosh, no. Yeah, if I ever start doing that, just snap me back to reality.
Yeah, the only camping channel that I ever watch on YouTube is a guy named Steve Wallace. Have you ever heard of him?
No. Is he the Australian guy?
No, he's Canadian. But he does like stealth camping, so he'll camp in places like you're not supposed to be, pretty much.
Yeah, like suburban areas, or just like national parks where outside of the camping area?
Yeah, more urban kind of things. Like he'll camp in a median in the middle of a highway, or yeah, and like in the overgrowth in the middle of a roundabout or something like that. Or he did a video where he like rented a U-Haul and he like camped inside of a U-Haul in like the middle of a neighborhood. And anyway, unfortunately his wife passed away earlier this year and he's not really posted much since then.
No.
But yeah, there's like a little excitement of like, are the police going to catch him? Because he's not supposed to be here.
This is starting to sound familiar. Maybe you have talked to me about him before. Well, there was something you told me about where it was a little bit illegal.
Oh, is it the guy that was sneaking into the Super Bowls every year?
That's the one. Yeah, it's kind of slightly illegal thing to do, but it's not doing any harm, so why not?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess you found like my niche of YouTube videos I like. People getting away with minor crimes, petty crimes.
Was Apple Savings postponed or not released?
I'm not actually sure if it was postponed or what happened. there was a lot of people thinking it was going to be coming out alongside 16.1. And I think it was due to some release notes in like the dev builds. But when the official public release came out, the mentions of the Apple savings account weren't there. So whether it was ever meant to come out with 16.1 or not is hard to say, but it's not out yet.
Okay. So nothing to report.
Which is disappointing because I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And you've got all that saving to do for the AR VR.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got plenty of saving to do. I did get my new Apple TV this week.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And it is exactly the same as the last one.
Even the remote?
I mean, it's got a different charging port, but I have to plug it in like once a year. So I'll notice that 6 months from now.
Wait, has it got a USB-C charging port now?
The remote does, yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, yeah, that's like the biggest change.
Yeah.
The TV itself is smaller. It's much closer to like the second-gen Apple TV was than the bigger ones. It doesn't have a fan and all of that, which was neat holding it, noticing how much smaller it is, but then it's going to go in my TV stand. I'm never going to touch it again, so it doesn't really make a difference.
Are you even going to see it again?
I mean, not really. It's like behind a door, so I can see the light come on, but that's it.
Yep.
The TV in my living room got shifted downstairs to my TV in the basement, which went fine. But the issue I'm having now is the old Apple TV that was downstairs that I'm just retiring to a drawer. I can't get it to go away from like my Apple Home app. I went into the settings in the device and I chose to remove it from my home, and that works, but it's not showing up in the room or in my home anywhere. But I still get like a little warning at the top of my home app. It's like basement TV unavailable or can't be found or whatever. But
right.
It doesn't exist in the home to be found, so I don't know how to fix that yet.
I think it might just disappear on its own after a set amount of time.
I think that's what's going to take. I gave it a few days because I switched everything on Friday. And literally just this morning before hopping in the call with you, I went and I plugged it back in the basement because I unplugged it before I removed it from the home. So I was wondering if it had to do some kind of unpairing step or something. Mm-hmm. So it's plugged in now so that it can hopefully do that.
Well, now you've just reset the timer for it to disappear from the app.
Yeah, that might be the case too. So I can't stand having warnings in my home app. I have to know everything is working.
Oh, I'm the same, yeah. It drives me crazy.
What I have learned to give up on is trusting the status of my devices. Especially, this has been a running story since I bought the house. These smart ceiling fans never accurately report whether or not they're on or off. I can control them just fine, and they work with my automations and all that. So as long as I'm never looking in the home app just to like see their status, because they'll say they're on when they're off or vice versa.
Okay.
But they work.
At least it's not something important like a garage door saying it's closed when it's open or vice versa.
Right. Yeah, my doors and the locks, all of those are very accurate. That would be a bigger issue if those weren't working. So my next, this is a small niggle, but you can give me your opinion on how you'd handle this, and maybe make fun of me. I don't know. My daughter and I set up Christmas decorations this weekend, which is maybe a little early, but when I only have her here half the time to get like a full month's worth of enjoyment out of the decorations, you got to set it up 2 months in advance.
Oh yeah, and naturally, yeah. Okay. I mean, there are Christmas markets in Germany already, so you're fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, so we set up a tree. We strung lights across the living room. That's all set up and working. But I did remove like a floor lamp from my living room and put it in storage, like where the tree is now. So now my home app, like whenever I say like, yo Siri, good night or something, I'm going to bed, she says, one of your devices didn't respond. And I was like, yeah, it's that light bulb it's in the lamp that I stuck in storage. Should I remove that light bulb from my home, or just accept for the next 2 months that my Siri's always going to say your devices aren't responding?
No, you have to do something about it. Can you just
okay?
Just turn it on in the basement? That's going to be just so annoying. I'm annoyed just listening to you talk about it.
Okay, yeah, I'm annoyed too. I could just plug it in the basement, but then it wouldn't be in the same room that it thinks it's in. I guess that would be fine.
But could you just move it to another room? Like, what is the command? Are you saying turn off all lights in the living room?
I do have, I have scenes for turning on and off living room lights for if we're turning movies on or something. So if you're turning on and off the living room lights, which actually happens more often than any other room in the house, it says device is not responding. Or when I'm going to bed and I say good night, it tries to turn off all the lights and then it says one of your devices isn't responding. And then vice versa, like in the morning, turning them on, things like that.
So could you not just remove it from the scene but leave it in the room? Or failing that, move that light to an unused room in the home app, not physically? Yeah, make a whole new room. Just make a living room 10 or whatever. Bedroom 10.
Storage room.
Yeah. Unused lights storage.
I could, but then I'd have to go and remove it from all the scenes that's being used in. Or else I'm still getting that message. So when I'm leaving home, when I'm arriving home, good morning, good night, the living room on and off scenes. All those.
Yeah, it's a few scenes. But what's it going to take, in reality? 10 minutes?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't. It wouldn't be too much work. Smart homes are just so fragile. I'm so hesitant to change anything. But yeah, I do agree that I probably have to do something, because I don't want to hear that every time I use my smart home for the next 2 months.
No way. I think the best solution is just to plug it in somewhere else in the house and, I don't know, drape a dark cloth over it if you don't want it on, if you don't want to see it.
It wouldn't be too bad just being on and off in the basement. Technically, the basement lights have their own scene, but they're on the least frequently, so it wouldn't be the end of the world if there was one light on in the basement if I wanted to go downstairs and grab something and not trigger the scene, I guess.
Yeah. I just want to retract saying throw a cloth over it, because that's not a good idea for fire safety reasons.
It's a lamp, so it's got a shade around it. Is that not basically a cloth around the light?
Yeah, but it's probably not going to trap heat like a rug over a light would.
Oh, yeah. Don't throw a rug over it. It's also just a hue bulb, so it's not going to get too hot.
Yeah. Just for the younger listeners at home. Mm-hmm. Not for you. I don't think you would do it.
Speaking of hue bulbs, I am definitely starting to butt up against the usable life of some of my bulbs. I've had
having more die?
two burn out on me in the last few weeks.
Huh.
And burnout is not the right word, because hue bulbs die in weird ways. They'll just start flickering all the time, and they won't listen and turn on and off. So you just have a flickering light. I had one of those in my basement, and I left it for a couple weeks because Elizabeth loved it, because it was Halloween and it was spooky that the basement lights were flickering.
Yeah, maybe it's one of those Hue recipes or whatever accidentally got installed.
I had one Hue bulb die where it just behaved the opposite of what you told it to do. So when you say turn on, it would be off, but if you turned it off, it would just come on very dimly. So anyway, those light bulbs got thrown out, but it seems like the usable life of Hue bulbs is 5-6 years, and then they start to die.
But it doesn't sound like the light itself is dying. So it sounds like the electronics that are controlling the light are dying.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the electronics, the controllers.
Right.
And I don't have a good way to track how I've used them because I've moved so many times in the last 5 or 6 years. The Hue bulbs, I always have a couple that end up outside as like porch lights or something. So I have no way to know if like this light bulb was the one that spent 3 winters out in the cold, or if this is the one that's always been inside. So it's probably not a fair assessment because I don't know what conditions it's been through, but it does seem like the 5 or 6 years is when I noticed some of them start to die.
That's not unreasonable. I think it's less than you'd expect a dumb light bulb to last, and of course you're paying a lot more for a smart light bulb, but also like $20, $30, $40 for 6 years worth of use is pretty cheap per year.
Right. And now that I'm thinking about it, it has been only the white bulbs, like the cheaper $20, $30 ones that have been dying on me. The colored bulbs, which I've had all of those longer, none of those have died on me yet.
Okay. Yeah,
so
maybe
it's
cheap
something
out
with the cheaper bulbs. Yeah.
Maybe get white, including the white ambient bulbs, or just the boring old white ones?
I think they're just the boring white bulbs because the white ambients are all still too new. But I am switching to those as I have to replace bulbs.
I saw also that, actually I think we already talked about this, but Hue is going to have Matter support or Thread support.
Are they really?
Maybe we haven't talked about it if that's news to you.
Yeah. Philips Hue update in 20... Will Hue support Matter? Yeah, it will. Okay. Matter just officially launched like this last week.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't know what that's going to entail yet, but hopefully it means I can start buying more smart home devices that are just going to work with HomeKit now.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Hue are one of the few devices that I really don't need Matter support for because they already work so well on their own. I really want some Matter ceiling fans. I will say that not Matter, but the Thread devices I have been getting more reliable. I know I was complaining about them early on when I was setting up the house. And I don't know if it was with a tvOS update or what, but in the last couple months, they seem to be a lot more solid.
That's good.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just finding their feet in the new house, settling in, getting cozy.
Maybe, yeah. I have not been backing away from buying more, even though they don't work. Like when I was setting up my recording booth, I got a Thread smart plug to control the lights in here, because I know as you add more nodes to the Thread network, it becomes more robust. So I keep hoping that if I keep throwing more money at the problem, it'll get better.
That's actually their entire marketing program, is just to tell you that adding more makes it better.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, and that's part of my motivation behind upgrading the TV is now my basement TV is also a Thread router. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Shall we talk about Freeform as well?
Yeah. I didn't know if we were going to say good morning or not.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good evening.
This is a great way to start the day. I've been envious of you.
What? Why? Oh, recording the show, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad we didn't do it this morning, although I'm not feeling that good either right now.
Oh no.
This is probably the most hungover I've ever recorded the show with you before.
It's like the evening over there for you.
Yeah, I'm still feeling last night.
Oh, man.
My sister and her fiance came over from Holland, and we went to the 681st Soest Fair, which is a town about 20 minutes away from where I'm living.
681st.
Can you imagine an annual thing that's been going almost 700 years? It's just
that's incredible.
Insane to think about it. Yeah, incredible.
Our longest running things here in the States are like 200 years.
yeah. Well, Australia is like 200 years old in total.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm still feeling last night a little bit, but I had a good time.
Is that the event that we rescheduled around? So doing it today?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It was more my sister coming because at our recording time I wasn't at the fair itself, but yeah, she was over here. And it's going to be the last time I see her until probably Christmas next year. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wanted to spend as much time with her while I could.
And this is our last episode with you in Germany.
It is, yeah. Thursday this week I'll be flying back.
All on one flight this time?
That's the plan, but you never know.
All right. You're going to get sick again.
I hope not. Oh gosh, yeah, it's just been it feels like the last 2 months have just been a story of how can the kids get sick. The most recent thing, we got piles of dead leaves are not something we are intimately familiar with in Perth. It turns out whatever grows or is cultured or festers in a pile of leaves gives Johannes quite an not extreme, but a long-lasting allergic reaction. At least that's his theory so far, but he's just been covered in hives for like 4 or 5 days now after playing in a pile of leaves for the first time. The poor kid,
So, explain this to me. Is it just trees stay green year-round, or you don't have leafy trees in Australia, or how does that work?
Yeah, the trees are leafy, but they don't drop leaves. Like, we don't have autumn colours and piles of leaves on the ground. I mean, we do. Of course, we have, some, but like it seems like every tree here is basically evergreen's the opposite, right? Evergreen is always green, so the deciduous.
But they're like okay.
Yeah, it seems like every tree around here is deciduous, so you can just go to a park and you don't see grass, you just see leaves for as far as the eye can see, which is pretty novel.
Right.
And we thought, fun. Well, it was fun until a few hours later when he was red from head to toe.
How miserable.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, that was the latest thing. Good times. Back to familiar territory, though, on Thursday.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Well, one thing that is still not out, but I've been playing with is the Freeform app in the 16.2 developer beta. When 16.0 was released, I removed all of my developer profiles as I usually do. But as I've been seeing videos of people playing with the Freeform app, I broke my rule and I put the developer profile just on my big iPad Pro, because I'm a very avid, I guess, note taker, especially around work-related things. I've got a whole pile of notebooks from my last 5 years at this company, and I can go back on any day and tell you what I was working on that day.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I guess it's I always get like commended for it from like my bosses and stuff. Like, oh man, I wish like I could be that detail oriented, or I wish coworkers could be. But the honest motivation behind my notebooks is like probably from a place of like deep insecurity, where it's like the imposter syndrome kind of thought of like, one day someone's going to realize I don't actually work, and they're going to say, have you been doing anything? And I'll have this notebook where I'll be like, no, look, this is what I did yesterday. I promise I do work.
That's a little
it's like
sad, though, that you have to live in constant fear of being assessed.
Yeah, it's like a self-preservation thing. No one's ever actually accused me of that and come back and demanded I tell them what I've been working on. And it's existed long before this job. I've had notebooks at every job I've ever worked. And it does come in handy, like on things like performance reviews at the end of the year. I can go back and like I have a very detailed, like, look at all the stuff I did this year, and it helps with performance reviews. So it is good to do. But the notebooks are tedious.
That's such a good idea, because I can think back to performance reviews where I've just like had no idea what I'd done the last 3 months. I'm not sitting there doing nothing, obviously, but when it comes to actually listing all the things I've done, I'm sure I'm missing like 90%. I need to get on board with with your method of note taking. Maybe Freeform is what I need.
Maybe, yeah, because the worst part about performance reviews is they're annual, at my company at least. So I end up sitting down for like at least one evening, if not a couple, and reading a year's worth of notes so that I can come up with things to put in my performance review. And they're not, searchable or anything because they're all handwritten. So as handy as they are for the situations like performance reviews, or if I were to ever be accused of not working, if I ever wanted to figure out, like, how did I solve this problem that I experienced a year and a half ago, there's no quick way for me to find that answer. So I've been playing with, for years, moving to digital note-taking. I've tried typing my notes, it's too hard because I sketch out ideas in my notebooks too often. The Apple Notes app is too limited, so I was never a fan of that. I've tried Notability. I've tried, I can't even remember all. I've tried pretty much every journal app on the App Store, and none of them have really clicked for me or worked quite the way I want. I've really liked my notebook with I have a pad of Post-it notes next to it, and I can draw things, I can write things, I can stick notes in and have tabs, and it all worked great. Freeform seems like maybe the first app that can do all of those things. I've played with digital whiteboard apps in the past and liked them quite a bit. So an Apple-made one seemed like it was made for me. So this last week was my first week where I switched entirely to using the Freeform app for my daily note-taking. And it's worked really well. And I can see it being a long-term solution for me. But its performance is really hurting right now. Like after just 1 week's worth of notes in this infinite whiteboard, it's slowed to a crawl, where if I write things with my Apple Pencil, there's like a noticeable delay between when I write something and it actually appears on the screen. And sometimes if I write something, it'll just go back and the last couple words I wrote will disappear. If I import a picture to put alongside some notes, half the time that picture just disappears. So it's definitely still in beta. But
have you tried deleting a note?
Deleting a note? Like a board?
A board, yeah.
I have not tried deleting a board because I only have the one board with all my notes on it, so I don't want to delete it.
Okay. It seems to be impossible.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, so I really like the direction of it and the concept of it, but the performance is severely lacking at the moment.
Yeah, disappointing, but is still on the beta, so hopefully you can give us another update when it's released in its final form or stable form. Can you give us an idea, or even like a screenshot or something of how big your note has grown to?
I mean, I don't have my iPad down here with me, which is the only device with the Freeform app on it.
Well, maybe for the show notes or something.
Yeah, scale is so hard to assess, because I did think about this before today, about sharing what I have with you. The hard part is, because it's an infinite whiteboard, you can zoom in or out infinitely.
Yeah, but it's pretty easy to get a sense of scale based on the size of text or an image that's in there, something like that. So it'd be good to see like how many things you can get in there before its performance is impacted.
Right. Yeah, I can put something together, but if you consider I've been using it for 1 week, so 5 days, and you consider, one standard notebook page being a day's worth of notes, plus a couple links, a couple images, it's nowhere near where I would expect it to be starting to slow down, because it's not that much yet.
Yeah, I get you. I'm always envious of people who can generate nice-looking notes. Do yours look nice, in quotes?
They look nice to me. I think they look nice. I like that I can attach relevant things now that's digital. Like, I got a really nice message related to a promotion I'm working on at work from one of our directors, and I put it in like, I just screenshotted it and I put it in my notes. I'm like, this is my motivation for the day. Look at this nice message I got. So yeah, it's organized. It's more organized than it would be in just a handwritten notebook. So I like that.
Yeah, my brain seems to work in like just lists of words. But I would love to be a note-taking person as well. Because it seems like a great concept. But then when I actually go to do it, I can't wrap my head around it, or I'm after something more structured, not less structured, like blank space where anything can go anywhere.
It's fun to go back and look at old notes, because like I said, these span longer than my current job. So I've got a notebook from when I was doing the accounting for a Walmart, and I can go through my notebook and like read my notes on how you did accounting with accounting software that was written in 1990 and still ran in DOS. And I can like see all my arguments I had with my coworkers, and it's great.
Oh wow, that'll be even cooler to look back on in like 50 or 60 years.
Right. Ancient technology. It was ancient technology when I was using it in like 2014, 2015. It was written in 1990. It's crazy.
All right. I'm gonna commit to trying to do this for 1 day. See what I can come up with.
Okay. I would suggest, if you're going to go into try to take note-taking seriously, I guess first of all, do what works for you. And part of what works for me was the handwritten aspect motivated me to do it more. But if you can and are comfortable, start out digital, because searchable notes are way more useful than handwritten notes.
By digital, do you mean do it on the iPad? Because I thought, and by handwritten, do you mean on paper, not handwritten on the iPad?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Paper versus, you can handwrite in the iPad and that's still searchable.
Yeah, that's why I was a bit confused. Okay, so do it on the iPad. Yeah, that I would 99% do it on the iPad.
So yeah, and even though I have Freeform and technically the ability to type my notes, I still write them with the Apple Pencil, just because that works with my brain better for some reason.
Oh yeah, okay. Like you, I also, once we're on the stable, .0 or .1 or whatever, get rid of the beta profiles, which is what I did, like you. But then I saw that Stage Manager external monitor support was back with 16.2, so straight back on the beta program. even even though I've got no external monitors until I'm back in Australia. But yeah, got to have it there for the second I get back.
How's it been working for you?
The iPad as a computer, or 16.2, or what exactly?
Yeah, 16.2 specifically.
Oh, flawless. Yeah, I had no issues with anything.
Oh, good. I am still in a mixed relationship with Stage Manager.
Yeah.
I just for the life of me can't find a use case that it's better than split view.
On the iPad's built-in display?
Yeah, on the built-in display.
No.
Because they're just always overlapping each other, and I've got to switch between the apps before I can copy and paste, and I can't reasonably fit more than two on screen and use them anyway. So, yeah, it's just not working for me.
I did see something today where I was like, oh, that's a good reason to have Stage Manager, or that's something you couldn't do without Stage Manager. And that was when you're using an iPhone-only app on the iPad, you can have it in vertical mode and not take up the entire screen. Like, it looks like an iPhone app, e.g. Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can't do that with
cool.
split view, I'm pretty sure, but also don't quote me.
I did have, I believe there's still a couple applications that technically don't support slide over or split view. And for those, Stage Manager does still force them into a window. So there's a few applications where you couldn't have multi application view otherwise. So for those cases, it's nice. But that's few and far between.
Oh, also there are some apps which still don't go into landscape, but with Stage Manager they do. So that's handy.
Oh, okay. I might have to try that, because I definitely have a few apps like that, like the cheapest like banking apps or whatever that they wrote an iPhone app and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see. I think the external display support hasn't changed since it was pulled from a previous beta, the most recent previous one it was in. So yeah, I'm still expecting that to be a buggy pile of dog poo, but yeah, at least it's there again.
Well, I'm not going to get that with my ancient 2018 iPad.
Oh, ancient. 5 years old, basically.
I'm hoping that's not the reason Freeform is performing so badly. Like, you need like an M1 iPad for it to work well.
Well, why don't you send me your note and I'll do something in it. See if it's slow.
Okay, we could try that.
You can redact it first.
Just put black bars over everything.
Yeah.
The last I saw sharing was specifically broken in Freeform, but give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier that the daylight saving time always ends right after my brother's birthday. So for his birthday this year, having just got an iPhone and getting into the Apple ecosystem, I got him an AirTag and a key ring, one of those little key ring loops for the AirTag, because he loses his keys constantly. So I got him set up with that, and I got him a MagSafe car mount for his car because his CarPlay doesn't work.
Yeah. Oh, you're a nice brother.
I'm just trying to get him further entrenched in the walled garden.
Perfect.
And I also went out to the AT&T store with my mom the other day, and she upgraded her iPhone 7 to a 14.
Oh, wow. That's a big step.
It is a big jump.
I mean, it's double, basically. Twice as good in every aspect.
Right, yeah. It's my first time having been in a carrier store in a long time, and they are terrible.
Yeah. Pushy salespeople or misinformation,
right,
or a bit of both?
Yeah, I think there might have been a few things they said wrong that I didn't correct. But yeah, specifically just how pushy they were with this was my mom's account. I was just there to observe. but they're asking her things like, where do you work? Like trying to upsell her on home internet or work business plans or their TV packages. It's like I wouldn't have to do any of this if you went to the Apple store to get your phone instead.
Yeah, although I have heard stories about the Apple Store starting to do a little bit of upselling as well, like with screen protectors and whatnot. So it might not all be roses.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I found it distasteful, but yeah, I guess the Apple Store is no better. Just buy everything online then.
It's always better online.
You just gotta know what you want.
That's it.
So my mom fits perfectly into that category of people that the iPhone 14 was made for. I know there's lots of complaining about it using the same processor as the 13, but makes no difference to her. It's still a huge upgrade.
And it'll be fast for, 5, 6, 7 years probably.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it'll last a good long time. The storage is huge. Her iPhone 7 is 32 gigabytes. So the base 128 in the 14 is more than enough for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she also decided to go with a Peak design case for her phone.
Ah, yeah, okay.
So I guess having seen mine and heard me talk about how much I like mine, that's the route she went. She usually uses wallet cases on her phone. And the Peak design case, I told you about the mechanical mount for like mounting to bikes and stuff, but it also has like a wallet snap-on that you can mount in that same place, and so she ordered that as well.
Very nice, fully set up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fully bought in.
Not to take anything away from the lovely new phone, but I was looking through photos from quite a few years ago when I was at this fair that I was at yesterday, and I saw a few photos. I thought, wow, the color on these photos is excellent. I wonder what camera I had with me. So I looked at the EXIF info and the Photos app, and it was the iPhone 7. And then I went looking through all my iPhone 7 photos, and they are so much better than the iPhone 13 photos in most respects. The only bit where they fall flat is dynamic range. So the iPhone 13 and probably the 14, they're just so good with the crazy dynamic ranges. Like, it'll never blow a highlight. There's nothing. There's like when you add a window, say if someone's face is half lit by a window and half in a dark room, like if the iPhone 7 exposed it wrong, like half of their face would just be gone probably, but the 13 and probably the 14 will get the whole photo, the whole face within an appropriate exposure. But just for like non-extreme situations, the iPhone 7 photos are just so pleasing when it comes to colors and skin color, and I think it's actually a reduced dynamic range probably. Although the iPhone 7 did have HDR as a feature, so it might not be that, but yeah, they just look good. I think they're being over-processed now. I think Apple might be... when you look at a Samsung photo, it's like so poppy. It's so colourful and vibrant. And iPhone photos don't look exactly like that, but I think it seems like they have gone down that route a little bit too much with the processing of the photos and making them a little bit unrealistic.
Right. So when you say the colors look good on the 7, you mean they may look more natural?
Exactly. They look very natural and very true to life, which is exactly what the new phone's photos don't look like. But also, I might just be a stick in the mud. Like, this is how photos used to look.
Well, I think you're right. There has been lots of, minor comments over the years that Apple's photos don't look as natural anymore or more processed. or leaning more towards Samsung's over saturation and things like that. Because I think that's what the average consumer market wants in a photo. But I wonder if there's like a photographic style or something that you could create for your phone that would make it look closer to the iPhone 7 photos that you enjoyed so much.
I tried, but like none of those like the actual feature photographic styles, none of those do the job. The closest I can get is shooting in Pro Raw, then taking it into Lightroom and adjusting it in there instead. But I just don't want to mess around with that for a phone photo, so I don't do that.
Right.
It's very much the case that the new phones will take a better photo in like an extreme condition, like say you don't know what you're doing and you're shooting directly into the sun or something like that and something's heavily backlit. Like the iPhone 7 just wouldn't take a reasonable photo, and a newer iPhone would. It would take a photo that you would look at and say, yeah, that came out as a good photo. So I think they've just made photo taking more accessible to everybody by processing them to the extremes.
Right. Yeah, you gotta please the mass market, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's not just pleasing them, it is helping people take better photos when a photo might not necessarily have even come out. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even necessarily like you said, someone doesn't know what they're doing and they're taking a photo, into the sunlight or something. But, sometimes there's just those split moments in time. It's like that's your only choice, and you don't get a photo at all, or you get, this heavily processed one. So you'd always favor that.
Yeah, like for me, the choice would be if I had to take a photo in that scenario, like set everything to manual, do the best you can, take it into Lightroom, and then adjust sliders for 5 minutes, and that's how you'd get a good photo out of that scenario. But I think 999 people out of 1,000 did not want to do that process. So it's fair enough that the phone is just going to process it as it sees fit.
Right.
So yeah, new phone.
So are
cool.
Yeah. Her iPhone 7 was finally just on its last leg. Between not getting the newest iOS this year and her battery life was basically non-existent anymore.
Yeah, I've heard people complaining about the iPhone 8 and 10. Well, I know 10 from personal experience, but those two phones starting to feel slow, so I imagine the 7 would be certainly long in the tooth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hard to get my parents to upgrade.
Is it really?
It's like this year where she basically doubled her version. Her iPhone before the 7 was a 4S. My dad also had a 4S, and he didn't upgrade his until the 11 came out.
Yep. Oh, well, should last a good long time then, by the sound of it.
Yeah, she'll be ready. She'll be set until iPhone 28 comes out.
What else do we have to talk about?
Are you looking at some holiday devices?
Holiday devices. Not looking at holiday devices, but I was just thinking, because when I came to Germany, I didn't bring my watch and I didn't bring my computer. So this is kind of the end of my experiment of just having a phone and an iPad for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have any structured thoughts about this, unfortunately. But firstly, the watch. I definitely miss the watch a lot. Mm-hmm. I actually have tended to not even carry my iPhone around with me at the moment, because it may be just because I'm on holidays that I always have a camera with me, and a phone is the main reason to have a camera on me. So when I have a camera, I don't have a phone. And then I think, look at all these metrics I'm missing out on. I'm not having my phone. It's not counting my steps. I'd really like to track this as a walk. I'd like to see how many steps I did today, all that sort of stuff. Or even just as simple as what is the time and what is the weather. So yeah, I really miss having an Apple Watch, and I've flip-flopped back and forth so many times on whether I should wear an Apple Watch in the last 12 months that I think this has settled in my mind that I do really like having an Apple Watch on me more than I like having my phone on me. So I think that debate has been settled once and for all.
Does that mean it's time for an upgrade?
I think it might be. Yeah, the Series 3 is long in the tooth, isn't it?
You could get an Ultra and just use that instead of a phone.
Yeah, I'm very tempted to buy an Ultra. I think I'll have to see it in person to really get a sense of the size of it. I've said a lot in the past that the Series 3 is about as big as I would want, and a reduction in size was one of probably my second priority after getting an always on display, which they have now. Series 3 is a big watch, and I believe the other series besides the Ultra did get very slightly smaller, but yeah, obviously the Ultra's big in comparison. Even bigger.
You have a 42 millimeter Series 3.
Yeah, you should know. Your old watch.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember the old sizes. The 42 is the big size.
Yeah, it was 38 and 42 in the old days, so yeah, it's a 42
so now it's
millimeter.
Like 45 is the big one.
Yeah.
Or a 41, which if you went to the small size, it could potentially work for you. I don't know if you'd want to go with the smaller watch size or not.
Probably not, but isn't it the case that even the 44 is actually smaller body than the old 42? Or maybe
it could be. It's a little hard to say because like the curves of the sides were changed slightly, and obviously the screen got bigger versus the case getting bigger.
Yeah.
So I think they're very comparable. Like I didn't notice that there was a big size difference between the devices when I switched.
Yeah, well, it may well be on the cards then for the Series 8, I think, though. Not the Ultra, although I'll check it out.
Yeah, you got to at least try it on if you're going to be in the store.
Yeah, true. Although, buying online, that's the way to go.
But then you can't pick out what strap you want, and it's a luxury experience.
Okay. Did you know there is an Apple Watch store in Japan?
Really,
Apple
just
Watch
for the
only.
watch?
Just for the watch. I think I've told you about this before. Possibly. Maybe not, though. Yeah, it's...
I mean, I know when the Apple Watch came out, and it was originally built as more of a luxury device, there was lots of pop-up, like, Apple Watch stores inside of, like, jewelry stores or, like, designer clothing stores.
Oh, okay.
That
could be what I'm thinking of then. Because it wasn't like it has its own doors at the front. It was within a bigger shop. But it was purely Apple Watch and no other devices in there.
Yeah, they did that a lot when the watch first came out.
Man, I thought I'd been to the only one. But there you go.
It might be the only one left. I don't think they do that very much anymore.
This was years ago, so probably not.
Okay.
So I also have been obviously using an iPad instead of a Mac for the last 6 weeks, and it's gone exceptionally well, with only one asterisk, and that is my iCloud storage. I've been saying for a while it was getting close to the end, and it finally capped out at 2 terabytes, I think in thanks and in part to all the new photos that are being generated during this trip.
Right.
And the reason that is my issue is that I just feel like with iOS, I don't really have any way to manage that, to see what the big things are. There's nothing in the Photos app to say, oh, whoops, this video is 50 gig by accident because you forgot to stop hitting record, or there are no tools to help me shrink that storage, that amount of, to shrink the storage in any way. It feels like I'm trapped in just paying Apple more money for more storage. Whereas if I had my Mac with me, I could probably see where all that was going, potentially shrink some videos, and not cough up an extra $5 for a few more gigabytes of storage until I can see what the actual problem is or where it's all gone.
Is that what you ended up doing?
I'm just paying for an extra 200 gig just to get me home. A whole nother topic on how I feel about iCloud storage at the moment, but it does feel very limiting. It always feels like I'm trying to generate less data so that I can continue to use iCloud, whereas I'd really just prefer to generate data freely. Mostly this comes down to videos, because videos can be massive, and the cameras I use can generate like gigabytes per. One thing I found, this is something I didn't tell you about before I left, a little problem I had. I found that at one point my camera was recording at like 400 megabits per second, and I generated like 10 gig per day for a couple of months last year, so I'd actually gone and shrunk all those back to a reasonable amount of size. So yeah, my camera can generate massive video files very quickly. But even after shrinking those files and deleting the massive ones from iCloud, that storage space was never reclaimed for some reason. And again, that's something I feel like I've got no tools to check on iOS, whereas on macOS, I'd be able to, use like a command line tool to download my iCloud photo library and share my password with some random script, as you've warned me against doing, but I still use it. So yeah, I feel constrained.
Yeah, I can see like how much storage each app is using, but I don't get any more insight than that.
Yeah,
in my iCloud.
Yep.
But I'm nowhere near you. I'm just about 800 gigabytes of my iCloud used.
And you're just putting, stuff in there from your phone, right? Photos and videos from your phone. That doesn't tend to take up a lot of space.
No, I maybe crazily put my whole computer into iCloud as well.
Oh, nice.
I don't just use the desktop and documents folders, like my pictures folders, my video folder, my audio folder, like all of those are all in iCloud. My whole computer's in the cloud.
How do you even move those other ones?
So you can't use the built-in ones in your computer. You have to make folders in iCloud called that, and I just replace them in the sidebar.
Yeah, gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I just don't... The only thing I don't keep in iCloud is like my development folder, because I use Git for all my source control. So.
Yep. Yeah, besides feeling a bit constrained when it comes to managing storage, it has been a delight to use the iPad instead of the MacBook Pro.
So what kind of things have you been using it for?
I've done a lot of reading on there, so I've been using the Apple Books quite a bit. I edited and published an entire wedding's worth of photos on the iPad. That went fine, had no issues there. The iPad does get very hot and the battery does drain pretty quickly when you're dealing with massive images and editing. And it actually isn't a whole lot faster than the MacBook Pro in the end. I think probably because it's just passively cooled and there's no fan. This was probably a bad idea, but when I was exporting the final images, which is probably like a 20-minute process, and the iPad was getting extremely hot, I chucked it in the fridge to help it along. Someone tell me why that's a bad idea, but it seemed to work.
Condensation. That's why.
Okay. I won't do it again. Yeah, but if I was doing the same thing on the MacBook Pro, it'd be drowning the house in fan noise for hours and hours and hours. So, yeah, small punishment to have a hot tablet for an hour or two. But it was nice just to have it with me all the time. Like, the iPad doesn't take up like an amount of space. I'm probably more aware of that because I'm in someone else's house at the moment, and I don't want to leave stuff lying around their house. If it was the computer, it would be taking up this big footprint, and people wouldn't like want to put stuff on top of it. Whereas an iPad is like this tiny footprint, even in the keyboard case, and you can stack things on top of it. It feels quite solid. You can kind of just leave it lying around. Yeah, I think it's because I'm in someone else's house. I feel that more than normal, but yeah, it has been nice to just have it like on a bench next to the sofa all the time, always at an arm's reach. Whereas if I was doing this, say the photo editing work on the computer, I'd always be like walking to the computer room to pick up the computer and get to work. Whereas the iPad is like, I'm watching TV and there's an ad. Let me edit a few photos quickly.
And the screen on the iPad is good enough for that, for your photo editing purposes. Like, you don't wish you had the mini LED screen on the Pro or anything?
No, I don't think there's any advantage the mini LED screen would give me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's only the big Pro that's got the mini LED, right?
Yeah, it is.
And when you're dealing with photos, there's no high dynamic range. I mean, you can get HDR photos, but it's not like I need 1200 nits on this screen to see this photo properly or anything like that. Maybe in manipulating video, it would be worth having that mini LED display.
Yeah.
If there's any problem, it's just the size of it. It's only 11 inches. It's quite small. If I had the option, I would definitely plug it into an external monitor to do the work. But at the same time, it was fine because it's so easy just to pinch in and out and view close up, zoom into the photo.
Defeats your portability argument too.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, it was fun. I really don't know which device I'm going to use for whatever my next job is, photography-wise, when I get back. Because I'd probably be equally as happy doing it on the computer or the iPad. Which is saying a lot for, this tiny little, like, what is it, like 600-gram tablet. I don't know how much it weighs. It's probably more than that.
I think if you got like a new M1 Pro, MacBook Pro or something, that's where you'd really see the speed increases.
I'd be singing a different tune then, wouldn't I? Yeah. It's not that my computer is slow to edit photos, though. It just, it gets loud and hot.
Right. I think I don't know if I need to clean it or what. My recording iMac, I sat down to do the podcast this morning, and it was off. I turned it back on, and it's like making an audible fan noise now the whole time.
Oh, okay.
So it's getting loud and hot too.
Yeah. Do those have just a mesh you can clean, where it sucks the air in?
No, there's not really a mesh. This is the tapered edges iMac.
Yeah.
And it's got just like holes on the bottom.
Yeah.
No mesh. So I think I'd have to open it up and like blow out the fan, maybe redo some thermal paste or something.
Yep.
But it's such a hassle because I have to buy new adhesive to put the screen back on after I take it off, and
just install max fan control and artificially reduce, well, not artificially, but limit how fast the fans can go.
I thought you say crank it up and blow out the dust.
All that, actually not a bad idea. I've seen that happen and work.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I will.
You chucked some stuff in here about the ANC getting worse on AirPods, the noise cancellation. Did you see my, I guess, counter link in there underneath as well?
I saw you throw this in here. Is this just this morning though?
What's that?
This extra link you added?
Yeah.
I did not realize there was a counter link. I thought you were just linking the Reddit post that the tweet was about.
No, it's someone who's rebutting the entire first thing about a patent troll causing Apple to reduce the effectiveness of the noise cancellation in the AirPods. So someone has laid out why that's not the case, or probably not the case.
Okay. Well, how does that relate to the active noise cancellation on the iPhones? Does it go into that at all? I'm trying to very quickly parse this very long wall of text that you shared. So the gist I'm reading here is that there was a design flaw with the active noise cancellation in the AirPods that were causing them to have some issues. So they've been tweaking it, both in it and the AirPods Max, which is kind of what spurred on the most recent round of complaints. But does it mention how they removed the noise cancellation in the iPhones?
Not that I saw.
Because one of the things mentioned in my initial tweet was that the iPhone 13s and 14s don't have the microphone noise isolation for phone calls anymore, which has been around since the iPhone 4S.
Really?
And
Don't they have that feature, the microphone mode, though? They still have a microphone mode. Like right now, if I look at my phone, I can choose like standard or isolate my voice or turn on a wide spectrum of audio.
Right, but that's with headphones in.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking about just like a phone call. You hold your phone to your face the old-fashioned way. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe then you could just say don't know enough about this to discuss it.
But
there is an ongoing lawsuit between Apple and Jawbone relating to active noise cancellation, and at the same time, Apple is making tweaks to their noise cancellation on all their devices. So whether or not those are related, both of those things are happening in parallel.
Right. Yep. I guess we'll find out in 10 years' time.
Right. Yep.
Anything else to talk about?
No, I think that's it for me. I was kind of scraping to come up with things for today's episode, honestly.
For some reason, it feels like this has been a short show, but we have been going an hour and 39 minutes.
Yeah, we're very much in our standard pace.
How odd then. Maybe it's because of daylight savings time, because right here it's went from sunlight to dark in that time.
Really? Okay.
But that would have the opposite effect, though. That would have made it feel longer, not shorter. Anyway, I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter. No, I'm not. I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and D3 Codes on Twitter.
But wait, are we still on Twitter? Or are we boycotting it? Dun, 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 dun. You can
find out next week.
You can find the show notes at reddit.com/r/bluebubblepod.
Man, maybe there won't even be a Twitter in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you're not going to buy your blue check mark?
No, I'm not going to buy a blue check mark. I don't even know. Like this is a thought that I've had in the last couple weeks now. It's like, where would I go if Twitter, ceases to exist or becomes unbearably bad? And I don't have a good answer. I like downloaded Mastodon just because that seems like what a lot of people in the tech sphere have been talking about, and it is not going to replace Twitter. I can tell you that. I have started actually trying to curate my Reddit feeds again. I'm like, maybe I just need to get back into Reddit, and that's where I'm going to live. It's very much like the Reddit of a college age kid, though, because besides our show related stuff, I'm not really on Reddit very much anymore. But it's like I need to go through and remove like the weed subreddits and like the isn't it funny that this person got hurt doing something stupid subreddits and
all the good ones.
Right,
you have to keep a list of them, just for the times when you're bored, so you can visit them directly. Apollo's good for that because you can fave something but not subscribe.
What I did start trying to do in Apollo specifically is viewing the not the home feed but like the all subreddits feed. Because I felt like that's maybe a bit more of like a Twitter kind of experience where it's just this is everything going on.
Also a lot of crap.
I know. Yeah, that's what I'm realizing. So it's going to take some curation to get it like my Twitter, where it's like just tech people and iOS stuff and news, and that's it.
Yeah, well, the tact I've taken, and I'm not this isn't in its final form yet, but I've just gone back to visiting websites. So I guess my main use case of Twitter, I got a couple, but the main one is like, what is the tech news today? What's everyone talking about? But now instead of going to Twitter, I just go to The Verge and just read it. Because The Verge, I don't know if you've seen the recent redesign, but it's kind of Twitter-esque in that you have like articles as well as short posts from, journalists, which is perfect.
Right.
And it's curated by journalists, also good. People who I like to follow run it. People who I followed on Twitter run it. So it's the perfect replacement to get tech news, I suppose. There are a few other use cases of Twitter which I don't have solutions for, like certain photographers who only seem to post on Twitter.
Right.
And yet, there are people who only post on Twitter, so what do you do in that case? But the big one of tech news, just visit a website, does the trick.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I need to spend some more time actually looking into the people I follow on Twitter and seeing where I can find their resources elsewhere. Like I'm just scrolling my Twitter page right now, and like the first one I got to is like Federico Vitici. I follow him. Where can I find his stuff elsewhere? I don't know.
MacStories.net.
Apparently, I've never heard of that website.
Really? That's his thing. That's his website.
Yeah, that is his website. You see, he's just a face on Twitter to me, though. It's like, I like what he says. I'm going to follow him on Twitter, but I don't know him from anywhere else.
Okay. Now you do.
Now I do. Yeah, this is what I need to do, though, is go around and do that for everyone, I guess. It's just not going to be all curated in one spot anymore. That's going to be too bad.